And today's book review is another book by Michael Pearl. It's Created to Need, a Helpmeet, a marriage guide for men by Michael Pearl. There's the cover, and there's the bottom of it. As you see, it's two wedding rings interlocked. And I read this book that hopefully it'll help you in your decision as to either purchasing the book or reading it, or if not to read it, I guess. So just an open book review about it. Now it's a it's kind of an average size book, 245 pages, somewhere in there. It's not a difficult read. Now the title, Created to Need, a Helpmeet. This book is a marriage book, but it is written from the point of view from a man to another man about marriage. And Michael Pearl, it goes in some of his history, is that when he was he has a very good testimony of having a marriage, and that marriage, I guess you say working, is that they get along, they're still married, they still have love in their marriage, but it wasn't always like that. Michael talks about this and kind of gives you a little bit about the background. That's how the book starts. It starts with the idea that Michael and his wife, and he went into marriage with one thing about one idea of marriage, and his wife had another idea of marriage, and they had their few little battles and things going on, and then finally how it works together to produce a good marriage. Michael really talks about preparation of marriage. See, I wish that I had read a book like this, or this book, before I actually got married. I highly recommend the book to anybody that is thinking about getting married, that you should go ahead and get a copy of this book and read it. It gives you a very great insight on how man was created to need a helpmeet. See, and he starts off talking about God creating Adam in the Garden of Eden, and Adam, he went over with all the animals, and he named them all, and then he said he was lonely. He did not find something out there that fulfilled him. And so that saying, a dog is man's best friend, it's actually supposed to be a wife is man's best friend. The right wife is man's best friend. And so God, in his infinite wisdom, created Adam with the idea that Adam was going to need help, going to need a helpmeet. And so God created woman in order for Adam to have a wife, so that the two could be one, and that two are better than one, and so that man and wife, each one would be completed by the other person. So that's where the book, it gives a little bit of history about Michael, and then a little bit about why he wrote the book. It helped me understand from the point of view that man is a single living unit, yes, but he's only half complete. And man is not complete until in his marriage he has a marriage to a woman, and therefore that unit's like this. A man is this and a woman is this, and they actually complete each other to make one unit. How man is actually supposed to almost change his way of thinking from what we are told today. You see, man, I grew up thinking marriage was a specific certain type of way, and then when I got married, it wasn't like that. A person, imagine it like this, if you will, okay, is that a man is driving in a car, and he's by himself. That's a single man, and he can go wherever it is he wants to go. He can stop whenever he wants to stop. He can stop wherever he wants to stop. But when a man gets married, now there's two people in this car. And even though he may be driving the car, he has to think about the needs, the wants, the desires of the passenger now. And so the man can't just stop wherever he wants to stop. He can't just pull over wherever he wants to pull over. He has to have in mind his wife and her needs. If you're in the car and you need to pull over and use the restroom, if the person driving doesn't need to, but the person in the passenger seat does need to use the restroom, the driver has to pull over. Correct? He has to stop the car, change everything, change what he's doing, and redirect the travel so that he can accommodate the needs of the passengers. That's what this book really boils down, is the idea of, I put it in the picture for you, really boils down the idea of marriage, is that man is not created to have a slave. He's not created to have an assistant. He was created to have a need for a helpmeet. And the book talks about different types of men. This is something I really liked about the book, is that it talks about different types of men. It says there are visionaries, there's steady men, and we all know these different types of people. People that have always got a great idea, always got some brilliant thing to do. Well, there are different women as well. And if a visionary marries a visionary, sometimes it doesn't work out very well, because they're both competing for who's going to be the better, who's going to have the best stuff, best idea, who's going to have the best direction to take the family. So it gives a very good understanding, a very good guide on who you are as a man and what you need to look for in a woman. Now, I know that there's a lot of help out there, and I'm not telling you who you need to find, anything like that. What I'm saying is that this book is a very good guide for men that maybe were not prepared for marriage from their parents or from somebody else. There are a lot of things that I saw in this book that my parents went through, and I believe that if they had this book, or if they read this book before they were married, they wouldn't have nearly the problems that they did. No marriage is perfect. Even Michael and his wife, her name is Debbie, they say that too. Their marriage is not perfect. There is no perfect man. There is no perfect woman. There is no perfect marriage. The only thing you can do is try to work towards a common goal. And that's where Michael talks about his common goal with his wife, working towards the Lord, he tries to put her needs in front of him. And consequently, there is another book out there I should do a review over. Miss Debbie Pearl did a book about women helping their husbands. And this is a book just really for men trying to identify their strengths, their weaknesses with themselves, so that they can help that in marriage and they can take that to marriage. There are some funny stories that Michael talks about in here when they were first married, about he wanted to go crabbing on their honeymoon. So wherever they went, he picked where they went crabbing, and they spent all day doing this type of stuff. And she was tired and exhausted. She's not as physically fit as he was, and he just couldn't understand, how come you aren't keeping up with me? Well, it was because she's different. She was built differently. And we all say, what a moron. You should have thought about that. Well, we don't really take that. We know that, but this book helps you put it in the right perspectives. I'll read really quickly the back part of the cover. There's a picture of, there it is. There's a picture of Michael and his wife. And I've never met Michael. I don't know really anything about him other than what I get from this book. And I'll tell you about something that I really don't like about the book here in just a minute, but that Michael and Debbie Pearl have been married since 1971 and have 5 happily married adult children and a growing number of grandchildren. He also says, if you're having trouble in your marriage, have your wife read the book that she did, and it's a book meant to restore marriage. See, that's where what I really liked how the book took a turn, is that there are so many hurts that occur in marriage. There are so many problems that occur in marriage after we find out, oh, you had not a past, not a dirty past or anything like that, but just you thought things were going to be this way, and she thought things were going to be this way, and because it went like that, feelings get hurt. People have bitterness, people have envy, people have strife, that you're just dealing with people. This book really helps with how to identify the fragments, how to identify the fractures, and to try and put those back together to form a healed marriage. Because I'll be honest with you, I know several couples and know of people that the husband said something or the wife did something, and it just rubbed the other person the wrong way, and they're sore about that. They're sensitive about that, and sometimes those hurts can go on for a very long time without the other person knowing that. So Michael's book is a very good read. It's a very quick read. He writes well, but he doesn't. It's not on a college level education paper, and it's not an insult to Michael or an insult to you or an insult to me. It's just that it's not a very hard book to read. It's very interesting because it has a lot of stories and it has a lot of examples from Michael's past and what he did. That hurt their marriage and how it helped their marriage. It's a book about healing, and it's a book about how to get direction for your marriage if you want to continue on. Something I don't like about Michael's books is I don't know where he lives or what he does, but he uses scripture in his books. That's a good thing, but the scriptures that he uses, it seems a little bit more like he's tied to a works-based way of religion or a works-based thing. That's just as you read it, and you'd have to read it to understand what I was saying. I have a hard time putting it into words because there is a lot of grace today. And it's not all about grace, but if you can forgive somebody and you can move on without the other person always having to try and do something to prove their love to you. Now, Michael doesn't talk about proving your love to other people specifically, but it's that type of works-based idea that if you're not doing something completely right, then you're just completely whole and totally wicked. I kind of think I understand where he's going with it, but I don't completely agree with it. Put it that way. So that's something I do not like about the book. But other than that, it's a very helpful read. I would suggest that you get it. It's a very, very good book for somebody who is not married yet. I already stated that. It's a very good book for somebody who's been married for 1 year, so that you can kind of soften the impact coming up with a few things that maybe you just didn't know. Okay, maybe you were just ignorant, like I was, about certain things in marriage, and it caused problems, and that's why you deal with certain things or you don't deal with certain things. Or maybe you've been married 50 years and you can agree with what he's saying, or you can disagree with what he's saying. That would be very beneficial if you would write in the comment and tell me how many years you've been married and how long it took, if you read this book. I would appreciate that because, I'm doing the review here. So I highly recommend you getting the book. The link to the book is in the description below in case you need one or in case you just need to send it to somebody else. It may not be for you. It may be for somebody else. I know very many people who purchase books and they give them to somebody else for a help to that person. If you know Michael or don't know Michael, let me know about that in the comments. If you have an idea or another book that you would like for me to review, please, either contact me in the description below or just write in the comments. I would appreciate that. I thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.